So it's part denial that this is December. It's been snowing for like a month, so it's not surprising with the snow. But here, I was going to make a nice bookstagram on December 1st, and then I can't because there's snow in my windowsill, and I don't want my books to get wet. But we'll figure out something. Happy November. I started A Tale of Two Cities. It's wonderful and epic. Being chronically ill is super sexy, they said. So sexy. You know, your greatest love comes and kisses you and nurses you and knows that he's finally deeply, so deeply in love with you. Miss Dracula is really great. Love that classic. Read This Is How You Lose a Time War. I didn't love it. I've been looking forward to it since like 2018, and then I finally got a copy of it, finally read it, and I was disappointed. Maybe the hype probably didn't help that, but like mostly like the world and like so much of the writing was beautiful, but like it didn't have the strongest plot and we didn't get to explore the world, and like the relationship was okay, but I wasn't really invested. And the fact that it was so correspondence built made it very tell and not show. So even though like it was fun, but it wasn't like impactful, and it had so much more potential, and it's a novella, so I want to be compassionate on it. But right now I started Mexican Gothic, which is wonderful. I really like the atmosphere and the writing so far. Watching Vampire Diaries because that's how you deal with pain. So I really don't recommend Chronic Pain because it freaking sucks. But you know what's distracting is when you're just reading this nice horror that's going to be nice psychologically one, and you're going to analyze it, and she wants a master's degree, and it's beautiful and wonderful and creepy and inspired by some of your favorite books, and then the incest babies are being cut open from their pregnant mother and eaten alive. I'm sorry for that graphicness because I had to experience it. Yes, there was actual noises coming up. I wish I was watching it because of the fact that watching helps me not imagine what my brain will always imagine. Why do I have an overactive imagination? Giselle Ferran was a German writer and photographer who escaped Nazi Germany and took candid pictures of the Perons, as well as spending a lot of time in Mexico with Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. And it's interesting. I love this collection of photography, and like notes in the beginning gave a lot of her history. And right now we're just looking at the pictures. But this one is very interesting because this is Frida Kahlo, but to me, she's almost unrecognizable because I'm so used to her self-portraits where she's so front on, that to see her and to see her so like on the side, like to me that's Frida Kahlo, but to me it's harder for me to see Frida in the side pictures. And it's very interesting that when she talks about the directness and the self, and without without changing or adapting herself, it's interesting that so often we see her like from the front, and that's how I recognize her so strongly, so poignantly in the middle, that when I see her not focused, that somehow my brain almost doesn't think that is Frida Kahlo. And I don't know, I see a lot of encouragement from her, and the way that she depicts pain and the way that she talks about disability in her paintings. I don't know as much about her personally. This is one of my first forays into like learning more about who she was as a person, and not just who the person was in the bed with the books and the paintings in the background. But yeah, I'm really loving this, and loving this way of nonfiction and this way of telling stories of author. Welcome to the world of Chronic Pain. It is late at night. Well, it's not that late, it's like 11, but I am visiting my family for Christmas, and I'm traveling, except for Chronic Pain sucks. So I'm at a wonderful en route, which is Ontario, near Ontario highways. We have places where we can stop, and they're open 24 hours, and they have lights. Thankfully, even during COVID. However, they are not warm and do not have places to stay. So I have blankets and some things, and I'm going to try, because I have a terrible migraine, nauseous, and just general pain all over my body. And even though it's not that late, I cannot drive another 3 hours. So, God be with me, and I'm 6 hours into the sky above the storm, beyond the storm, and it is wonderful. Sweet home home. It only took wonderful, wonderful 2 naps, and it's 7 a.m. But we made it.
At night, 'cause everyone was missing safety lights, so we tried to use a flashlight as a guide. And now I'm standing in an overcrowded train, picturing the times we had as children while the rain is pouring down.
Hello, so I'm at my parents' house now, which is fun. I'm on the way to get shawarma, which is always best because Ontario shawarma is not nearly as good as Ottawa shawarma. And I have done some reading because I've been very, very ill the last few days. I'm just apparently walking around the laundry room. Trying to get good lighting. There, that's okay. So I finished Hollowpox, which was incredible. It's the 3rd book in the Morgan Grove series. It has this like wonder. A lot of people talk about Harry Potter. And if you're looking for Harry Potter with a great author, then try Morgan Crow. And it has 3 books already. It's supposed to be like 7 or 9 books or something like that. It follows this girl who is cursed, and then as she gets whisked away into this competition to enter a school, and she's not really sure what her gifts are. And it's like, why I say it's similar to Harry Potter is it just has such a full world. Like, you know, she could make the school, she could make something about the society, the Wonder Society, like so strong, but like she makes the whole world just like living with magic and power, and like her patron is amazing, the supporting cast is amazing, she talks about amazing conversations, and I don't know, I just feel so full, and it still gets like goose flesh on the back of my, like, you know, when you're a kid and you're reading a book late at night, like I still get that things, even though it's aimed for children, like it still kind of spooks me out with the villain, but it also doesn't allow people to just be black and white, and I adore it. I also finished A Sky Beyond the Storm, and I just like sobbed. Like I could not stop sobbing. I love Sabathir. I can't wait to read her books outside of this world, even though I love this world so much. Like, I didn't love the beginning of An Ember in the Ashes. It was a little too fast, but as we go further and further, her writing just explodes with greatness. Her, again, like, all of the characters, like, the main characters are all killers, and they're not all okay with that, but some of them are, and the villains all have complexity, and it talks about grief and how grief and pain sticks with us, but that doesn't have to define us, but it can define us if we choose to. And how do we move on from tragedy and Londing? And she's not ever afraid to kill people or to let bad things happen, and that's something that won me with the very first book. And I just, like, I don't know, I sobbed from joy, I sobbed from grief, I sobbed because, like, she just changes the story so much, and she does such brilliant writing, and it's the kind of writer that I want to be. I also want to be able to write children's books the way Jessica Townsend does, and now I'm 5 hours into 17 hours of Addie LaRue, which is also brilliant. I have an up and down relationship with V.E. Schwab. I love her ideas, but I don't always love her execution, so I'm hoping I will love this. It sounds like one I will love. I tend to like her adult works a little bit better. Yeah. It has such a beautiful conversation about grief and remembrance, and it's flipping between the 16th century and 17th century and 2014, and curses and memory and the pain of that, but put in a supernatural way. Anyways, off to shawarma. If you're ever in Ottawa in Canada and you happen to be on March Road, get a shawarma house. They're literally the nicest people. This mall came in when I was about 14, 15, and my family has been going ever since. We love shawarma, and I don't know if they know who I am, especially since I haven't lived in Ottawa for 6 years, so I only come, but I make sure I go there every single time I come back. But they're always like the kindest, most generous people, and they always have a good laugh, and they're always like wonderful. And the guy is just like the father. I think he's the father because he's older, and he's always smiling and nice, and he doesn't know the most English, and he just goes, "Can you pass me one of those baklava?" And I'm like, wait, why am I passing you? Because it's plexiglass between us because of COVID. And I hand it to him, and he's like, no, that's yours. Don't tell anyone, just eat it yourself. I swear he knows it's my family because my family goes there like probably once a week. But I'm only there like probably every 4 or 5 months. Anyways, I'm picking up shawarma for the rest of my life. He's just like, keep that, don't tell anyone. They're literally the sweetest people. So, ever warm shawarma, reasonably priced, delicious, and the kindest people ever, and they never charge you extra and they just give you stuff. Anyways, great night. Now I'm gonna go to my brother's new house and I'm babysitting his son, which has been a delight all week, even though I've been sick, but I love them so much. Addie LaRue and cocking the joys. Hey buddy, do you want to blow your thing? The towel rack has never been more beautiful. Don't hit me. I'm in love with Transcendent Kingdom, and I'm having an issue because it's just filling up so much. I've had like so many of the last books have been like 4 or 5 stars. I read so many great books, and I'm glad I left this one for December because this is wonderful. Even though I'm not at home and I don't have as much dedicated time to reading, I'm really enjoying the books that I am reading. So this is by Yaya Gazassi, which is probably a terrible butcherization of her name. But I read Homecoming in January and I fell completely in love. So I was really excited to read and find out that she had her second novel coming out. And this is wonderful. It's very different than Homecoming, that looks at 3 centuries of history and how kind of generational trauma and stuff like that influences people. And that book is wonderful. If though I wish I had more time with each of the people, but this kind of answers that question with really focusing on Gifty and her family. So Gifty is a PhD student and she is in neuroscience, and it looks at now but also her life. So her family, her parents immigrated from Ghana and with her older brother Nana, and then she was born like 6 years later, I think. And it follows her story and how her family is influenced by that and the different things in their life, and it is so wonderful. It looks a lot at mental health and her mother's mental health, her brother's addiction, her father leaving and racism, and how that influences things. And it is such a well-written book, but it also looks at a lot of religion and a lot of science and the questions that we ask and things like that are even though our experiences in that shape that do have very good questions that I've asked myself as someone who grew up in a religious home and then made my faith my own. And she made her faith her home in a different way, but also went into I went into psychology and counseling to understand a lot of the things in my own family that I didn't understand, and she went into neuroscience to understand that. So I find a connection with her that I really, really like. And I just really love the writing style, and I love the way that she tells stories and the weaving of now and then and how these things influence her and the questions and the fact that she doesn't make a traditional protagonist and that she's willing to be very, very real with her protagonist. I really love Gifty, and I'm excited to finish the novel. This is my brother's truck, the one that my grandfather made when he was a baby, and he would always tow me around in it when I was a kid. This is my nephew. He's very, very cute. He loves Uncle Adam's little truck that his great-grandfather made, and he is just ridiculously cute. Aren't you? Yeah? You are. Hi, Silas. So I am 3 hours, and I have another 3 hours in my journey to home, where I will be isolating and making sure that I don't have any symptoms. I spent the last 2.5, 3 weeks at my brother's house and not at my brother's house, with my parents and helping my brother move because he was staying with my parents, him and his wife and child, in between when their rental ended and when they had the house. I came down to help them with babysitting my nephew and to also assist them with some renovations and stuff like that, because with the limited amount of people, moving and renovating is very hard when you have a 1.5-year-old who very much likes painting walls and getting everything that is sticky and spreading it everywhere. Love that kid. I finished The Musketeers and they were excellent, like so excellent. I really, really loved it. This mask is moving as I won, and I'm in my car anyways, but yeah, just so excellent. I think that his writing is hilarious. I think that his writing is descriptive. He really gives a lot of voice and body to the Four Musketeers and even to like the minor characters. And like I understand that there's some accusations of sexism and stuff like that against him. And to me, it isn't more than the average book. And like, to me, honestly, like, I really enjoyed, I know that she falls into the like femme fatale, but like, I really love Milady. I've always found her a very captivating villain, and I don't know, I also think there's a little bit of complexity in there as well, and you get to see some of the things that we don't always see in people who are evil. Yeah, it's excellent. I can't wait to read more of his writing. There's some tongue in the cheek, there's some hilarity, and just really great descriptions that I wish I could write down. I'll definitely be flipping through my copy when I get home and underlining stuff and doing all of that. And I'm about to start The Year of the Witching, and hopefully that will be excellent as well as one of my last books of the year. Otherwise, I'm tired, so I'm going to try to persevere well into this drive and hopefully get 6-7 hours into The Year of the Witching. This may look beautiful, but it has been terrible to be driving in. Also, about 1 minute into The Year in the Witching, and I love it. Okay, now onto the rest of the journey. So I was incredibly nervous going into Instant Karma because I was like, Marissa Meyer is one of my favorite authors. However, I don't always love her endings, and also, I don't know if she can write contemporary. I've been smiling so much. She can really write contemporary. I don't love romance very much, especially YA romance. This was the sweetest story ever, and I'm in love. I really love the fact that they were both flawed, and they were very flawed, but also like super mediocre, and also like Ashley had character growth, and you could see why they were a good couple. And it was actually like a genuine good hate to love romance. Yeah. I loved everything about it. And Year of the Witching, I didn't love the ending nearly as much as I liked at the beginning, but I still thought it was a really solid book, and I look forward to reading the series and learning more about Emmanuel and just, yeah. I finished 3 books today, and I was very happy about all of them. And I'm home, which makes me super happy too. Hello, it is New Year's Eve. I am home. Oh my goodness, I feel good to be home. I love visiting family, and it's complicated and all that. I am being my safest, but I wanted to be safe, and I also wanted to be able to see my family. So they are isolated. I'm isolated here, alone on New Year's Eve. But I don't know. I've never spent New Year's Eve alone. I've spent New Year's Eve at parties with my families alone, like randomly, like just like 2 or 3 people with like 20 or like 100 people. I've had very many different New Year's, but I don't know. I really, really love this New Year's. I'm an extrovert, but I've definitely learned to love being by myself, and I love being around people, but I also just love being with me, and that partly is learning to be confident in who I am and liking my own presence and laughing out loud and sitting out loud and doing all those silly things that just the space to be myself. And I really appreciate that. So I'm glad that 2020, the year that it has been, that I get to actually begin the year, end the year by myself. I think that that is a beautiful closure to a year that, even though it had its rough parts, was good for me. It was very good for my mental health, and I gained 50 pounds, and for someone who has an eating disorder, that is amazing. And yeah, I just had a year that in the end was really good. And I'm going to be done 160 books when I'm done Homebody. Yes, I'm one of those people who uses terrible quotes. Okay, I really need a shorter card to put in here. I really like her writing. It's very evocative. It has made me cry at almost every one. And yeah, it just shares some things that are beautiful and lovely. I've written so much poetry this year. I've written more. I just feel enthused about the next year, and I feel happy about this year with its all unexpected turns and everything like that. I just feel like this was a good year. This was a year that I needed. I needed a pause. I needed a rest, but I also needed to grow and to learn and to listen more and all of those things. And like, I found art. I found like jazz. I found so many different parts of myself, and that's why I'm like always like, you never need to limit yourself, because as we grow, we change, but we also evolve, and we realize that things that we thought we wouldn't like, we actually like a lot of the time. Anyways, I have loved this year and I will check in. It's hard to, talk about poetry because I could talk through like every single line of this poetry and it wouldn't be enough. So yeah, I'm listening to old Stein Lang. Vlogbrothers put their back of the Anthropocene review, which was the last one last year, and it's such a great one, and it's emotional and always brings me teary eyed. Murphy Napier did her last book, which was Peter Pan, and that made me sob. It's been such a great New Year's, and I had shawarma, and now we have like a few hours left to the new year, and I am so excited. The candle made it into 2020. So did all my spreadsheets. Of course, I got the first thing wrong. It's 2021. But it lasted. Homebody was my first one. I will always have mixed thoughts because I love her work. And some of it touches my soul, and some of it just does not connect. And I think that that's the thing about poetry all the time. I'm happy. I began this year dancing around with friends to Cheap Thrills, slightly tipsy on mulled wine, and I ended the year twirling in my living room alone. I was just like, I am going to dance with my eyes closed through all of my houses and just say thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you for the year. Thank you to the friends. I know that it was not an ideal year, but it was a year that gave promises that I didn't think I needed. And even though I'm alone, I am very happy, very content. And here's to 2021 and a great year in which many things happen. Yeah. Goodbye, 2020, and so long.